Good morning, everybody. This week we're going to be talking about the novel The Devil All the Time. And in all honesty, I have no idea how I'm going to discuss this novel. It's not because it's that hard of a novel to read. It's actually one of the most easily digested books that I've read in a long time. It's more that it's a very complex novel to discuss even the plot. So I guess I'm just going to throw all caution to the wind and start and try to force this into my normal structure. But be aware that I'm not sure exactly if this is going to work. So what is the plot of this novel? The plot is very difficult to express without giving away spoilers. And I really don't want to do that because I want everybody to read this book. But at its core, this book follows several groups of people whose stories don't really intersect much until the very end. We start out with a character called Willard Russell. He's returning from World War II. He's seen some very disturbing things while he was in fighting in the Pacific. And it's truly shaken him to his core. He happens, as he's returning home to West Virginia, he happens to run across a diner in Ohio and meets a waitress there. He falls in love with her, so after returning home, thinking about her for a while, he drives back to Ohio, he marries her, and they have a kid called Arvin Russell. Willard Russell is a father who fully believes in taking his vengeance out with his fists on other people. He also is very religious. When his wife comes down with cancer, and she's lying there dying, Willard creates what he calls his church out behind the house, a little ways away from the house. And he prays there every day. He prays there for hours every day. He erects crosses. Nothing gets better. As his wife succumbs more and more to cancer, he starts to use a bit more of a primitive form of religion by basically sacrificing animals at the crosses, coating the ground in their blood, and finally escalates to killing a person and using his blood to coat the ground in. His son, Arvin, has seen all the animals that he's killed and is heavily turned off. After his mother dies of cancer, his father brings him home. His father says he's going to go out to pray. Arvin says, I ain't doing that anymore. And he's gone, and the father's gone for hours. Arvin walks out to find him and discovers that his father has slit his own throat and killed himself. At that point, he goes to live with his grandmother, and the book starts to follow Arvin as, I guess you would call, the main character. At the same time, flash to another story. We're following characters called the character of Roy Lafferty and his brother. Roy is a kind of a traveling preacher. In all honesty, his version of religion is more of a freak show in which he claims that God made him not afraid of spiders, and he proves it by dumping a jug of spiders on top of himself, while as his brother, who plays the guitar, plays music in the background. They both come from a religious background that caused his brother to drink antifreeze and lose the use of his legs. So they kind of travel together. Roy meets a person called Helen. He marries her, She gives him a daughter named Lenora. And at one point, Roy decides that God has told him that he can raise the dead. And his brother, who doesn't particularly like the idea that Roy is married, challenges him to prove it. So Roy kills his wife and then finds out he can't raise the dead. They go on the run. That's their story for most of the rest of the book. And then there are two other characters that show up. Carl and Sandy. Sandy is the sister of the local sheriff in Ohio. That the local sheriff, when he was a deputy, is the one that found Arvin's father, dead at his altar. But Carl and Sandy love to go on vacations. And what their vacations actually mean is they drive around, they pick up a hitchhiker. Carl convinces the hitchhiker that maybe he could sleep with Sandy, and then they kill the hitchhikers and take pictures of their dead body in different poses. As you can see, all these characters are heavily screwed up. And for the first 3/4 of the novel, we follow these characters through their lives and slowly get to know them. And it's very uncomfortable getting to know these people, but except for Arvin, who remains generally the novel's good person, the rest of them, you at least find out why they do what they do. And there are redeeming qualities to every single one of them, although obviously those qualities don't totally redeem them because they are, very violent killers. At about the 3/4 mark, all I can say is something happens that sends Arvin on a collision course with Carl and Sandy, as well as Roy on a collision course with Carl and Sandy, and it ends in death. That's all I'm going to say for that, because there's not anything more I can tell you in the plot without giving away some really important revelations. So, what is this book about? What is this book really about? And I put a lot of thought into this, and in all honesty, there is no subtext to this book. There is just text. This book is about the intersection of religion, violence, and actually sex. With the exception of Carl and Sandy, who are presented as pretty much non-religious, just killers, every other character in this book has a intersection with religion in some way. And their belief in that religion leads them to commit crimes and commit murder. And actually, in the case of one pastor, worse than murder. And while that may sound like this book is a refutation of religion, I don't know if it is, because in the end, Arvin returns home and he uses his father's church to come to terms with what his father did and who Arvin is now. And I'm not going to say anything more about that again because I don't want to give away the plot, but I'm not sure if this is a direct, total refutation of religion. It is a refutation of using religion to enact violence on others. It's very much, this book is a very violent novel. It's a very well-written novel, but it's a very violent one. And although, honestly, I'm not even sure if it's truly violent, because to be honest with you, you never get to see the violence. The violence all mostly happens off screen, and you really just hear about it after the fact. So, except for a couple scenes, there's not really anything directly presented to the reader in the moment, at least. So I'm not even sure if I should say it's a violent novel. It's a novel that uses the promise of violence to its own ends. Maybe I should put it that way. So anyway, that's kind of what this book is about. One sec, I got to plug in my laptop here because I actually had my laptop open to read out to remember who all the characters are, because this is a lot of characters in this novel. So is this book worth reading? Yes. Oh my God, yes. Netflix, from what I understand, did an adaptation of this novel. I haven't seen it, but the general consensus is read the book, and then maybe watch the movie if you really feel like it. Because from what I understand, the movie was just sort of meh. But the book is really great. If I read another novel written in recent years any better than this novel this year, I will be very surprised, because this novel is incredibly good. I highly suggest reading this book. It is very, very well done. And to be honest with you, it goes down a lot easier than what it sounds like in my recollection of it. Because like I said, the violence isn't really presented to the reader. It's actually just referred to as like something that happened. It is a little bit complex in that, like I said, most of these characters don't really intersect until the very end. And when they do intersect, it's explosive. I would suggest that the character of Roy Lafferty wasn't totally needed in this novel to be followed, but I'm still trying to figure out where he really fits into the rest of the novel after what he did to his wife. But that's neither here nor there, because I'm sure I think I may have missed something on that score. But definitely read this book. It's wonderful. It's a very fast read. It's only I think it's like 280 pages, and honestly, it feels like 10 pages long, because once you start reading it, it's like, well, I'll just read one more chapter. Well, I'll just read another one, and then before you know it, you're at the end. And so, I mean, it's a quick read. It's easy, and it's worth reading. So anyway, that's my review of The Devil All the Time. See you again next week. Bye-bye.